All right, it is that time now. Ladies and gentlemen, self-directed learners of all ages, welcome one and all to Autonomy Quest. This is your opportunity to meet some of the graduates, some of the prospective students, and tonight we've got a special treat for you. You guys are going to be able to meet your experience team. These are the individuals that you will connect with to conduct your blueprint call. These individuals, Justin Olson, Carl Nieberding, Ruth Strutz, Olivia Baruman, and Charles Carroll. These are the individuals that are going to help you guys determine exactly what the problems are that you're facing in your life, what the goals are that you want to accomplish with those problems, and they're going to be the ones that are going to actually build a plan of action for you guys to get over those problems and thrive with the use of autonomy. It is my absolute pleasure to have everybody here tonight, and really, like, Autonomy Quest is one of my favorite things to do. So guys, you're in for a treat here. We're gonna play a few clips. We're gonna play a clip, and then I've got some questions that we're gonna be shooting out to our experience team. We'll get some feedback from them. We will open up the floor to any of the audience members as well as students to have them, go through and ask our experience team exactly, what it is that they do if I don't cover those questions initially. And of course, I do have some amazing gifts for you guys before we do wrap up. So, keep your eyes out for the chat room. Apparently we do not have clips today. I was incorrect. My apologies, but that is quite all right because we're gonna do it live. We just roll with the punches here. That's how we do in autonomy, dude. Something comes in and it switches it all up. That's okay, because we've all been through this before. We're not afraid of complexity. That's what autonomy brings us. So let me kick it off real quick. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce to you your experience team: Justin Olson, Carl Nieberding, Ruth Strutz, Olivia Baruman, and Charles Carroll. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, guys. It's a pleasure having you with us. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you, Phoenix. Good to be with you.
So, guys, we've got a list of questions here, but I kind of want to go kind of off script, as I usually do. That's me. Us anarchists, we don't really do what we're told too often. But I want to find out, the experience team, and whoever wants to chime in first, feel free. But I want to understand, how did you guys get onto the experience team?
Great question, Phoenix. That's actually something that I've had my eye on a position like this for a number of years, actually. When I joined the course, Richard was still doing the blueprint calls. This was 2019, 2020. So if you were there from season 1 to season 3, you actually would have spoke with Richard to get into the course. And well, that call itself felt like an integral part of the course because it laid the framework and the foundation and was the first introduction to it. And so, of course, because of the way that Richard teaches his course and how to communicate with people, it naturally made sense to, okay, this is something that I want to do. I see how important it is. I see how important autonomy is. It's really a choice that I want to be here representing what this is because it has integrity and value. And well, thanks to Richard's teaching, I know how to do it the correct way.
And I'd like to highlight as well that we're all graduates of autonomy. And when I joined, Lisa Manfredi, who's also a graduate, was doing all the calls. And, you get to apply the skills you learned during the course, but you also get to share your experiences of the course. And for me, that's what helped me decide by meeting an actual student who's gone through the course. Because I looked at Richard and I was inspired by Richard, but I was like, can I really be like a Richard Grove type? So meeting someone more at my level who's gone through the course, who used to be at where I was at, was really helpful. And, it's a privilege to serve that as well. And now our experience team has broadened where there's a handful of us, and, we each have our own story, our own walk of life. And that's because autonomy is for everyone as well.
Nice.
I think for me, it's probably because our name is the experience team, and the experience that I've had going through the course was so amazing that I just wanted to share it with other people. So speaking to them and sharing my story and relating to them is just, really a very fulfilling thing to be doing.
Yeah, I think we started at we both started season 6 together. Is that correct, Ruth?
I was in 9.
You were in 9? Oh,
Yeah.
I thought you were there for 6. Memories.
Yeah, for me was that I was asked if I wanted to give this a try, and I took the opportunity because it was a big challenge for me. I have never done anything like this. I never thought that I could ever talk to you and meet new people and be able to practice the skills of listening and communicating, talking to them and expressing myself and just listening to learn their story, their background, where they're coming from. So it's been a pretty interesting and amazing ride for me, but it was more, I just took the chance to do it. Why not? This is like practicing what we're really learning in the community and through the course. So yeah.
Thank you, Olivia. And Charles, how about yourself? How'd you end up on the experience team?
The truth?
No, lie to me.
Okay, I really just wanted to be on TV. No, the truth of the matter is that Leah sent me a very cryptic DM on week 8 and says, Leah/Richard would like you to attend the meeting. Here's the link. They didn't say why. They didn't say what we're going to do. They didn't say.
I think they headhunted you because you had to leave my mastermind to go join this team and stuff.
That's what it was. And the other thing was they snatched me out of the mastermind. And basically I said, well, I got a mastermind. And they said, well, tell Carl you'll only be 40 minutes late. And so about a week later, Carl says, where the hell did you go? Because I assumed that they told him, and that's how all of that actually happened. So you can see that's why I was quiet. I didn't really want to tell everybody.
They could tell you already had the skills. You didn't have to get all the way through the course before you were ready.
I didn't think that's what that was. They didn't say that. They told me I may be the dumbest candidate they ever did, but they were going to keep me anyway. You know, it's just the way it is.
Well, guys, and feel free to chime in at your own leisure. But what is how does the blueprint for success, how does this strategy call really help people when it comes to autonomy?
I think it's just being able to talk through their problems with someone else who's sort of possibly been in the same situation they have, or can at least relate to other people that they know that are in autonomy that have gone through that, and to talk it through, give them some guidance as to why it would help, and just get to know people better. And that's a rare thing right now. It's like they really probably don't have that kind of relationship with anybody else like we have here. So it's just a new thing, new experience for them, and I think they want more.
Firmly agree with that assessment. And because of the way that the conversation is led, it forces them to actually say with their own mouth, their own mind, what it is, who they are, and who they would like to be, and to actually confront the possibility of what do I need to do to get there where I want to go. So the importance, as far as I'm concerned, is that possibly for the first time they've actually had to verbalize their want, need, desire to go forward.
Okay.
I agree with Charles on that, definitely. I think on my observation, it seems like I went through one as well and everything, but now I can see that one of the things that went really well, and it's going, or at least for me, and I can see now in other people that are taking the blueprint calls, is that from their own mouth, from their own thoughts, they are bringing that out, and they are telling that to themselves, and they are figuring things out as to where they are, what they want to do, and how they can get there. Right. So definitely agree with that. It's them realizing, going through the call, them realizing what is that they want to focus on? What is that something that's been hidden in them that can come out? possibilities, you know, because some on the blueprint calls we discuss possibilities of things they can do, and they can give a try, or they can focus on and go there, right? And so they can definitely realize that. That's what I've seen, and now I realize that happened for me too. So yeah.
Everybody's hitting it on the nail of the head with what I think as well. It's an opportunity to think through questions that you may not often ask yourself or be asked, you know, such as even a broad question, such as if money weren't an obstacle and time was your choice, where would you be? What would you be doing? You know, how many people are asking that question and genuinely considering and articulating a response to it? And so it is an opportunity to map out where you want to go in a more clear direction. You know, regardless of autonomy, that's beneficial to life in general. And then a lot of people also don't ask that question because, well, now if they have this big ambitious answer, but they don't have all the pieces to go into place to get to that place, it's almost like they'd rather not know. Whereas in something like an autonomy call, it doesn't need to be a roadblock, because you actually have somebody on the other side that can say, you'll need this, this, and this piece to get to where you want to go. And then you have not only an ambitious plan that you're nebulous about how to get there, but you actually have a strategy of how to get there. And on top of that, marketing material, you know, and descriptions on a website is one thing, but you really need to talk to somebody just to get a grasp of how comprehensive a course like this is.
Yeah, well said. And I'll definitely agree that the call personalizes autonomy to your own situation. And what I see a lot of people getting a lot of help with is just bringing up those doubts we all have of, you know, am I good enough? Can I actually do this? Is now the right time? And often what they'll discover is that all of us were in that same place too. And then we were able to make it work just by showing up and doing one step at a time. And then just understanding all the facets of autonomy. It's not just the course, it's the community, it's the exercises, and it's the resources, and it's the mindset you'll develop in the process. So it's a lot to explain in a single web page, and that's why we have this call.
Thanks, Carl. Well, guys, I know we're all kind of one of the main techniques and tactics that we do develop in autonomy is the ability to meet new people and be able to have a meaningful conversation with individuals. Do you guys find it fun to meet new people that are prospective autonomy students?
I have to say, I have to go first. I am loving it. I think it's such an amazing experience to get to know people with, again, with different backgrounds, different stories, learning from them, hearing from what they have gone through, how they feel in life right now, learning about their obstacles. And sometimes those obstacles are in, like Richard says, in between the ears, and just bringing those out. So I love it. I've been enjoying it so much. I'm so grateful for this experience, being able to practice this, what I've learned, and hopefully getting better every time. And I really, really hope that for those calls that I have already, that I have helped somebody. You know, yeah, so that's what I can say. It's an amazing experience.
Yeah, autonomy has a tendency to attract a certain caliber of person that usually leans towards critical thinking and questioning of more or less what's just thrown in front of us, and not taking everything at face value. And these are usually very detailed, thoughtful characters. I learn something every time I talk to one of them, because, you know, as I'm asking a question, you never know what they're going to say. I take notes, you know, just as much as I'd hope that they might, because really it's, yes, for example, last week I was on a call with somebody from Australia, and I'd never heard somebody refer to their father as my old boy before. And so I was like, wow, that's fascinating. I like this already.
That's one of the parts that I really enjoy, is the worldwide outreach that we have. I just spoke with a gentleman in Poland the other day, and that was just, you know, I can name practically anywhere in the world that we have somebody in autonomy from, and it's just an amazing experience that way.
Yeah, I'll also agree. You know, people who maybe they've been following Richard Grove for a while, or they're interested in the idea of autonomy, which is sort of like freedom through self-reliance, like developing yourself, to free yourself. So I think these concepts, and Richard in general, kind of pre-filters people towards this similar mindset we have of like, maybe we don't know what to do right now, but we know we can learn and we can show up and we can do it eventually. And it does create this worldwide community of people who might have thought they were alone and soon realized they weren't.
Charles, what about yourself? Yeah, any other words of wisdom to add?
There's not really anything to add. I mean, what I see, certainly there's enjoyment. The caliber of humans that come through there is exactly as Justin described. They're a bit different. In a good way. I mean, I've made the silly comment many times that all I really want to do is to go be able to sit at the lunch table with the smart kids. Everybody sees the analogy, it's visual, it's high school Harry stuff, but there's a lot of smart kids coming through. And this Justin's assessment, yeah, they really are the people that probably have been questioning their reality much longer than they actually have gotten an alternative view of what this world actually is. They're kind of tuned in some sort of spiritual ethereal sense. I have no idea. But everybody that's up here on these squares is about the same way. They know, just as you do. They knew before there was autonomy. They knew when they were kids, as they went through, they progressed through the various stages, parents, school, etc., that it was not quite right. They weren't angry, they weren't mad because they didn't know it, but they still were able to perceive it. My 2 cents, if you like.
Just to quickly build on that, Charlie. Yeah, I think it does attract those people who can see through the illusion. And what autonomy offers is it gives them a solution, like something they can do to free themselves. So many of us get stuck in reactivity mode, just reading the news or learning information. And autonomy is really about applying that to grow the freedom in your life. So it's like the people who can see through and now they're ready for a real solution.
Well, every individual that does join autonomy, we've all got our own complexities, our own path through and to this community. How has your guys' personal journeys given you insight into the different individuals and how you can help them when you are talking to them?
Yeah, just to chime in briefly again, we each have a little bio on the Blueprint call page. So like I wrote something about getting over the employee mindset because that was my journey. And I noticed people who have that particular issue gravitate to doing a call with me. And then I can talk about how I had a 9 to 5 and then, I left the workplace and kind of did like a personal walkabout for many years, like traveling and being a barista and just like reading lots of books. Like it took me a long time to figure out how to be my own boss because they don't teach that in school. They didn't teach me that at a job. So yeah, one way is just like the bio, or sometimes something comes up. We talk about different like gemstone personality types. Like I have a more analytical type, and I was recently talking to someone who's an experimental physicist, and so I related to him at like the academic level of like, okay, you've been through lots of schooling and that's great, but you actually don't have to get a master's degree in sales and in business and in every subject, right? So autonomy will teach you to like learn just enough to make it work. And then, I can share how I started with that mindset and ended with a new one.
Nice.
To build upon Carl, the same thing. If there was one thing that I try to let people know is silliness. It's not really part of the agenda. It's a result of what may come after seeing autonomy, is a realization that we as humans, we are not weak. We're powerful beyond anything we know, as far as I can tell. It's one thing to say it, it's another thing to know it. But that little bit of, completely reverse programming to what they get daily over and over and over and over and over and over. You can't. Can't is what they've been teaching you when you're in this stuff. This will burn you, you'll fall out of the tree and you'll break your arms. So what, Mom? Don't care. You're much more powerful. You can handle many, many more things. You can overcome many more things than this reality will let you know. I believe that is what is feared, but it's what I believe everybody needs to know. So that's a result. So I'm going to the end, and letting them give them a hint, hopefully, that autonomy, the course material, that's how it takes them there. That's my personal belief. I certainly can't quantify it. I certainly can't prove it. But that's how it appears to me.
Okay. Thank you, Charles. Justin, Ruth?
Well, my personal experience, and I won't go back for all the years that I've been alive for experience, but just when I retired, it was like, okay, now what? It's like, am I going to sit around and watch TV? Am I going to knit all day long? There's got to be something else. And it's like, once I got here, once I discovered it, it's like more people my age who don't really have any, they don't have the big savings that they can go traveling or anything like that. There's something that they can do yet with the rest of their life. And that's what I want to get across to people in my situation, that there's something there that they just don't even know it's there. And once you get here, you can find a variety of things you can be doing for the rest of your days. So
For my personal journey, it has been, well, one of the things is that I had the idea that for me to learn something new, I had to go back to school, and I was looking into enrolling back to school in order to do something different, because I am on the IT. That's what I went to school for. And I landed there because just that was the door that opened for me back when I was younger. And I just took that, but I was never really interested in that. And I learned it, I was good at it, and I did it. But I'm getting older, and I was like, I will never learn something new again. I will lose track of learning IT, computer, whatever, you name it. So everything I was doing, it was just changing. I had a very close person to me that he was like sharp, and he still is sharp and he's younger than me. And I was like, I think I'm going to lose that. What am I going to do? So I was getting frustrated with that. And again, I just thought I was never going to learn something new again. And I was going to lose that potential for me to be able to do things. So when I joined Autonomy, I realized that I can learn whatever the heck I want, and I can do whatever the heck I want and change that if I want to at any point in my life. Doesn't matter how old I am. I can always be of service, and I can always do something different. If something doesn't work, I can change that. If it works, I can continue that path. And it's been very different for me since I graduated. I'm from season 8, and now I'm doing other things that I didn't know I could, like having this conversation right now with you guys here. I never thought I could ever talk about it. And yeah, so my personal experience, like I feel like I have grown. The scarcity mindset, for sure, the helplessness, that not being able to learn anything anymore, that's a big lie. And that you're aging and you're never going to do something new again, that you cannot travel because you don't have money. No, I've been doing that since I graduated. Somehow I was like, I have to do it. And I did that. I've been traveling within 3 countries right now. I want to do more, maybe. I don't know. I'm good where I am right now. But anyway, so that's just something I've been doing. My personal journey so far is that I've been doing. And I hope to do more and continue learning. So yeah.
Thanks, Olivia. We need more doers in the world. Justin, how about yourself? How has your path and your personal experience, influenced the way that you help people coming out?
That's a great question. And my path into autonomy was very unconventional. There was, when I was 18, 19 or so, I was on a bit of a sojourn, living out of a backpack for nearly a year. And near the tail end of that, I met a man who was thoroughly versed in the classical liberal arts. And I stuck around with him for a while because I was so fascinated by the way that he would engage everybody and have dialectics and call out fallacies. And I would share conversations with him, making as much sense as I could, and just have, he would intellectually run laps around me. And he actually pointed me to Richard Grove's work almost as a bit of a wink, wink, nudge, nudge, go learn these skill sets without needing to join a society of secrets to get access to this kind of information. And so that's what led me to pursue Peace Revolution podcast and Richard's work in the first place, and ultimately get the materials for autonomy. And I was seeking much of the how to think aspect, and was more than pleasantly surprised with the business and entrepreneurial high-level overview that I have taken and ran with. Since I joined, I've not taken on straight time for labor work in a traditional button-up, go to the resume. Every position and opportunity I've had, talking with people, asking questions, being curious and insightful. And then also now currently in autonomy that we have somebody like Dylan Moore who presented the intellectual self-defense, go through 5-6 hours of that, and you do have the 20% that catches the 80% of this extraordinarily crucial skill set that somehow they didn't manage to teach us in 15,000 hours, yet now we have access to here in autonomy. And so this is the important part to me, is that we need these skill sets and how to think clearly so that we can organize ourselves and our communities in a way that are prosperous and peaceful without the need to have an external authority of force to come in and guide our lives, but rather we can guide our own lives. And so that's where I come from, is from a philosophical overview, let's say.
So autonomy has so much going on. I was not even aware that of this Dylan Moore individual or the intellectual self-defense. There's so much going on. It's such a fire hose of information. It's a little bit off topic, but do you think you could give us a little bit about a breakdown of this? Is this a new course offering that Dylan added to autonomy?
It is in the student presentations. It's 3 parts. The first part outlines what circuits human interactions happen on, and then outlines how those interactions work. For instance, when you're working with sophistry or somebody who's being sophisticated and using fallacies to try and make a point that isn't coherent with evidence, they have to go through a certain sort of process. And when they do that, it's no longer a reasonable argument because they're no longer playing the game of reason. And so in a nutshell, his advice is be unreasonable, learn how to spot those very quickly, and then drop down to their level to address that so that you can get back to having an actual dialogue inside of the, let's say there's like rules to the game of interaction that follows grammar and logic. And when you break those rules, it's no longer, win-win communication. It's now somebody's going to come out on top and somebody's going to come out on bottom. So learning how to address that really quickly and then, know what's going on in lifetime.
Nice. One of my biggest successes about autonomy is the relationship that I've been able to, reinvigorate with my children. And like lately, I've been watching a lot of me and my youngest daughter have been binging Supernatural. So I haven't been as invested in self-development lately. So that definitely sounds like something I'm going to have to touch on. That sounds amazing. Like I'm so stoked for that. I'm like, Dylan, thank you so much. I'm going to be getting into that probably here over the weekend. Like, that's awesome. I'm excited for that. I really am. That's cool.
Highly recommended.
Guys, not everybody does qualify though. what are, like, not everybody makes it into autonomy. There's a lot of individuals that, you know, for one reason or another, they just don't fit the mold. Like you could, I like to tell people, you know, being a principled libertarian anarchist, rejecting the use of government, the use of violence as a means of social control, that's base level for human decency. Like you can still be an anarchist, a principled anarchist, and be a total jerk. What has been some of the biggest obstacles for people getting into autonomy that you guys have experienced within your blueprint strategy calls? And Charles, why don't I go with you first? Let me throw the hot seat
Well,
at you.
you don't trust people. You just call them. Number one is money. Number one is money. Number one is money. Number one is money. I think everybody will agree. The next part, which is most important, which is why they don't have the money, because they haven't prioritized it. All right. They're not in an abundance mindset. The next thing, it appears to me, I will not say with 100% accuracy that it is a fact, but it appears that the people that come through the door, that make it through, that are worthy, if you like, that we would be happy to sign up to enroll, have not been educated enough, meaning that they haven't got to that point where they understand what the reality actually is, have then decided to do something about it. Because autonomy is obviously an answer. It's a very simple answer. So twofold. They've got to have thought about the process, educated themselves for the process, learned, you know, what we're fortunate enough to know in order to then prioritize it. Some of them, it's 10 years they've been following Richard. Some of them, it's 6 months. Depends on the individual.
Okay.
I mean, it's really about my 2 cents. That's what it appears to me. If anybody else has, you know, got more, I'm happy to listen. But that's the people that I talk to.
Okay.
I'm gonna chime in on that. I agree with Charles. Definitely is money and and being able to understand and prioritize that part. As and another thing I will add to that, it's the time that they think they have to. When I explain to them like how it goes, the course goes, and some of the minimum time that is recommended to gain value out of the course, but I think it has to do with prioritizing. They think it's too much time, or that they might not be able to make it. You know, that they will have to, that they cannot do the integration exercises or do these other things or get into the lectures on time or having to go to work and things like that, or not being able to listen to the recordings, and just miss and not do it. That's some of the things, just the time part that they think, yeah, but I think it has to do with prioritizing and knowing how to do that. And we do learn that for sure. And that's in the first few weeks, probably the first week actually, and or the second
Shout
too.
out to David Allen.
Yes, and you do learn that for sure. So timing shouldn't be something that they need to worry about for sure.
I'll jump in on a little bit more about what you said. It's not just the time investment, it's the self-confidence. A lot of people just don't have it. So they think, okay, I'm going to be spending all this money, which is a stretch. Am I going to be able to get anything out of it? Am I going to be able to do this because I've never really done this before? Because that's the way we've been trained, is not to complete things to the end. And, you know, a lot of people have that inner thing in them that they just can't let go of. So that's a big obstacle.
Thank you, Ruth.
What came to mind to me is if you're ready to accept responsibility for your life. And I think that comes after a certain amount of pain, and that pain threshold is different for each person. And it's sort of about, you know, have you tried the wrong thing long enough where you're just totally fed up and willing to admit there's some better way you don't know yet or you haven't tried, that someone else could show you if you're just willing to learn, instead of, maybe you grew up with a certain way of doing things or a certain mindset, a certain context. But like getting to this like more Justin was mentioning the guy schooled in liberal arts. It's like there's this enlightened way of living, right? And most of us aren't grown up and read into that way of living. So we have to kind of be willing to acknowledge our bad habits or past mindsets that have held us back and be open to learning something new. I think once you get past that, you can make everything else work out. You can find time in the week. You can find a way to get some money, knowing that changing the course of your future will all be worth it after that.
A lot of it too is you just don't know what you don't know. And in the case of a lot of the content in autonomy, it's you never heard about it during school. And so you don't exactly have an idea of how valuable it really is, because it would be a mistake to confuse the enrollment price of autonomy for the value of the course. And what I mean by that is the pricing of the course was designed to be a gut check for people who went through public schooling and need the information in order to move forward in life. If the same content was sold in a professional corporate business setting, you could add a 0 or 2 on the end of it. The value is there. And as I'm sure, Phoenix might share a similar sentiment, I've used the skills that are taught in the course to make back much more than the enrollment price of the course.
Yeah, I think I've made so far just this year 65,000 off of the skills that I developed in autonomy. That's not mentioning last year. Like last year I pulled in 88,000 I did last year. So yeah, definitely the value and the price are not the same thing.
It's a really big game changer going from getting, $800 to $1,000 paychecks to now having a month's worth of commission with 10 and a comma going into it. It's an absolute like eye opener, mind opener of, wow, if I can do this, what else can I do?
So guys, one of the big things within the Blueprint sales calls is, overcoming all of these obstacles that we've kind of outlined: the money, the priorities, the education in regards to the nature of reality, the minimum time commitments, having the right level of self-confidence, being ready to accept personal responsibility for your lives, these past bad habits, the Rumsfeldian unknown unknowns, and of course the price not making the value. When you guys are in these calls and these individuals are hit with these obstacles, how do you guys help individuals show up for themselves in order to overcome those obstacles within your calls?
It's probable they already have at some point back in their past. Hey, when you encountered this situation in that, time 5 years ago when you needed to solve this problem, what did you go ahead and do then? And then all of a sudden they start thinking of, already worked through solutions in this way, or what do I know? What options do I have available? There's not much input that I give in that point, so much as, what do I need to ask so that whoever's in front of me can think through their situation thoroughly enough to come to their own conclusions.
It's very Richard Grove-esque. You learned well. No, it really is. I take a completely different approach, though I prefer Justin's. That's when it's challenge time. Meaning, I just go ahead and tell them, you'll get out of it exactly what you put into it, like everything else in this world. There's their challenge. So now they got to make a choice. In other words, you ask the question, that's how I handle it. I like Justin's better.
I like yours too. They each got their time and place.
It depends on the person, does it not?
Yeah, situation dictates. Each individual is going to be spoken to. They're going to meet these things where they have to be, where they're at.
That's when you get into this in probably all of our opinions, but I'm not putting my words in anybody's mouth. It's a crapshoot. All you can do is make an offer. Tell them this is what it costs you. This is what will gain you. What are you going to do? That's all. What are you going to do? What are you going to put into it? And that's all there is to it, in my opinion. But I'm a gruff, nasty old man, you know. And Leah's listening. By the way, Leah, I was looking for my Hell's Angels wife beater shirt to wear, but I couldn't find it.
Well, you're lucky they didn't see you wearing it because they'd take it right off of you.
Oh, that's so bad. I'm not sure your intentions are entirely honorable. I don't understand.
When I worked at a store in Manhattan, they would come in, lock the door behind them, and take all of the merchandise that had their logos on it and walk out the door. Nobody did anything.
I read something about that. That's the good boys, right? In any event, a little levity, you know.
Yeah.
It suits you.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Carl.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I just, in a recent call I had, because I definitely agree with both those answers, but like you want to challenge them, but I also agree it's like you want to help them figure it. Like, I think people do know what they need to do, but they need to realize they can do it and that they're not alone and they're not weird for wanting it. And one recent prospective student I talked to, when I had him describe his vision, and at first he didn't know, and then a minute later it just came right out, like very specific. And when I asked him like what his ultimate goal in autonomy would be, he actually said very honestly, like just to respect the person he sees in the mirror, right? And that says to me, we do know what we want to do with our lives. It's just like, are we going to find that courage to pursue it and have the right vehicle, the right path to do it? So I think like we can help them by just bring that out of them and then showing them the path to take and saying they'll be supported on the path, but that it is their path to walk. Like we can't drag you down the path. To paraphrase Charlie.
I can say that I agree with Charlie and Carl on that. Definitely one of the things that I do or try to do the best I can, depending again, because there's different people we see on the other side and when we're talking to them. But it's mainly just I let them choose. They need to know and that they have the power to choose. That is something I personally didn't know I had. Sorry, I didn't know I had that. I always kind of follow what was put in front of me and people guided me that way and I was just going for that, but I never really choose many things. So maybe I'm reflecting that on them. I really want them to know that they can choose. And there is not a right or wrong approach in there. It's what they want to do for themselves too. Right? Because this is for them. And another thing is like, it's about do that investment for you. Do that or take a chance on you. Because it's just you choosing, knowing that you can do that. Yeah.
Thank you, Olivia. How about yourself, Liz? How do you help individuals show up for themselves in your calls?
Well, I think speaking of choice, it's a matter of getting down to their level of satisfaction with their life. Are they satisfied? Okay, maybe we can't do anything for you. If you're completely dissatisfied with your life, what are your choices to change it? Do you want to stay there, or do you want to actually invest in yourself and invest in learning and get to a different point than where you're at? And that basically is your choice. One or the other.
Okay. I know for me, when I do my consultations here at the law firm, one of the main questions that I ask individuals in order to get them motivated to show up for themselves is asking them, what's the opportunity cost? What happens if you don't hire these attorneys to help out with probate? What happens if you don't set up your estate plan? What happens if you don't set up guardianship for grandma? What's the cost of not moving forward? Do any of you guys use that question in your blueprint calls?
Yeah, and not maybe in that exact words, but that was my point, is like, what are you going to do? Is it, how did you just say that? I forgot what you said.
What's the cost of what's
The
the
cost?
opportunity
Yeah,
cost
what's
if
the
you don't?
cost? So, it is this meager, and it really is meager amount of the tuition, or whatever you want to call the costs of getting in the course. Is that really worth hanging on to when you're miserable in the life you have, where you can step out and go forward and just make a different life for yourself?
It gets framed, but maybe in a bit of a different ordering. Because I find, as I'm going through these calls, asking where they're at, what they're doing, where they want to go, what their plan is to get there. And then after we go through that plan, that's now the opportunity to ask the question, is there room to improve this plan? And does autonomy, help fit into that equation anywhere? And so in that process of finding out how much they currently know and then discovering how much they could know, it paints the picture, but I'd never thought of, presenting it as directly as you have there. So I'll take some notes, Phoenix.
Yeah, one thing I found is, most people where they're at today, like they can sort of tolerate it. But the question is, in 2 more years or 5 more years or even 10 more years, or if you keep going the way you're going, will you like the life you have? And you don't want to wait that long before you find out you don't like that road, right? Because that's the opportunity cost. Like, time is our most valuable commodity. And as soon as I pitch something like that, sometimes you get a very visceral reaction like, oh no, in 5 years, I don't want to be doing what I'm doing now. And then you can work backwards like, okay, well, in 2 years, where do you want to be? And then in 6 months and so on.
Okay. Well, I would love it if one of the experienced team or the whole team, if you guys can kind of collectively or as individuals, kind of just walk us through a call and how you guys do conduct those calls. And I'll throw a little bone in the middle and you guys can fight over it this time instead of picking one out.
Well, first thing you want to do is get to know them. You want to let them know who you are, so you're becoming friends and establishing some amount of trust. Obviously, we're still strangers, so we're not going to be completely trustworthy at the first moment. But the more you dig in and you share with them your experiences and their experiences, that sets up your ability to talk to them through with all these problems in their life and come to the conclusion of if we can help them or if we can't help them. And that's basically it. And then getting over their big obstacle, which normally is the financial one. But that's it in my little nutshell. I'm sure everybody else is going to expound on it much more.
That's definitely a big part of it, is just being personable, being there with somebody else and getting to find out who they are, where they are, and what they're doing. Because it would be a huge shame on us to say, yes, our product works for everybody and you need to buy it. It's like, no, that's not how this works at all. We want a certain caliber of person. And so we do want to get to know people and to ask ourselves the question, like, is this person willing to put in the time and attention and be a quality team player? And does this person have what it takes to get the information and the value that autonomy has to offer? But I mean, what that looks like really is a bunch of questions. I mean, first off, it's no pressure, right? There's no need for a credit card to come out during the call at all. This is just to have a strategy call. And so, who are you? What are you doing? Where do you want to go? What's your current path to get there? What are the obstacles in the way? And then what's the solution to overcome those obstacles? And then what's a plan of action to move forward in a way that has mutual agreement and common understanding?
Thank you, Justin. Carl, how about yourself? What are some of your basic steps?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, Justin explained it quite nicely. And how I typically explain it, it is definitely a no pressure call. Like this is something where if you're interested in the course, you sign up to talk to someone who's been through it. But the call isn't really us just presenting the course to you. The call is for us to get to know you. So we're going to ask about your background and what you're doing today. You know, where do you work? Are you happy with your career path? Your station in life. And then after we get to know you, we talk about the future you imagine, right? Where do you want to get to? And what are your challenges towards that? And what have you tried so far, and what's worked and what hasn't, and what's holding you back? And the third part is where we try and find out a new blueprint for success for you that could include, exploring autonomy and the resources we have there. It could just include some brainstorming about a situation in your life. But we aim to end the call with a plan of action. And if it's the right time where someone's ready to invest in themselves and they can see a clear way where autonomy is going to help get them to that ideal future faster, and it's ultimately cheaper to fix a problem earlier than later. So the call's really about you getting to bring your own situation and questions and problems and get feedback from us on how autonomy could help you, or other ways we think you could go about your solutions.
So it's if autonomy isn't the right solution for you, Carl, you'll point them in the right direction for something that is.
Yeah, like I'll just talk with them. Like, have you sort of like Richard will do on a Q&A, right? He'll ask what people are doing, and just from going through autonomy, I have some general ideas. Like I mentioned this person who works in a university on physics, and it's like, well, do you like teaching physics? And he's like, yeah, I really like teaching kids. It's like, have you considered filming a course? If you do that one time and you get a website and there's these tools, there's ways you could sell that. Or let's say he doesn't want to do all this digital stuff. Even within your organization, have you considered a project your bosses or peers are working on that you could provide value to? Like autonomy teaches you just learning to provide value. And so there might be some almost like prerequisite steps, maybe some like easy wins or low hanging fruit that they want to work on before they're ready to join a course like autonomy. But yeah, we won't be trying to get you to purchase anything during the call. It's really just a brainstorming session with one of us.
Yeah. And Charlie, how about yourself? What's the structure for your blueprint calls?
The structure is exactly as everybody else, because that's what it's taught and what it's done. It's a conversation. From there, we find out who are you now, where is it you would like to go, define any obstacles keeping you from that, provide a solution. That's it.
Man. So, guys, we've got a couple of we're coming up to the point where we're going to start opening it up for audience feedback and student feedback and graduate feedback. But before that, I've got a couple more questions I want to go through. And one of the most important ones that I want to understand is, as members of the experience team, what have been the biggest struggles that you personally have faced in conducting your blueprint calls?
There are none. We've had some technology issues, but other than that, speaking for myself, it's actually a breeze.
I really can't think of anything that's really, because it is just a conversation. It's just getting to know the person. So I don't think there's any real big challenges unless it's a tech problem.
Yeah, the interesting part to me is it's like if I had my own business and we were like, it's all the organization around the calls, how do we find people who are interested to schedule, and who should they talk to, and then sending them like a reminder, because not everyone knows it's a Zoom call. Like today I had to call someone on the phone and then they were in Europe and they forgot they'd scheduled. So it's like all the little details about how to make the process easier and how to organize it. But once we're on the call, it's quite nice. There's not many difficulties to fret about.
Yeah, I know personally for me, like no shows and no calls are some of the most frustrating things that I deal with.
Again, yeah, but again, if I send a reminder day before and they didn't respond, maybe I won't really be surprised if they don't show up. So
I had a consultation today. The individual did not confirm their consultation over the last couple of days. I sent 2 text messages, called them this morning, called them at 2 o'clock this afternoon for their 3 p.m. Finally got a hold of them. Said, hey, we're going to be doing our consultation. It's in office. Are we still on for that? Yep, absolutely. I'm excited to be there. And 3 o'clock came around and they didn't show up, didn't answer their phone, didn't respond to text messages. I'm like, what the heck? We could have just rescheduled. We could have canceled right then and there. That's like one of the most frustrating things. But Justin, I think you had something lined up.
Sometimes you got to cut a conversation short. It's like, sorry, we only scheduled an hour. We've been talking for an hour and a half, but I actually have to go do this other thing. I mean, aside from the technology, sometimes it's just like, how much can I bring to the table? Because there's like the conversational level and the be friends and the have the chat. And then there's the really, I'm going to show up. I'm going to do my best to help this person, regardless of what that is. And just like whatever, beingness that I have, like, can I turn that to 10? That's something you got to consciously do. So I'd say it's difficult to do that every single time, but definitely the more practice, the better you get at it.
Speaking of the practice, do you guys, as the experience team, do you guys have like weekly or monthly meetups where you guys get together and discuss your processes, where you guys role play or anything like those along those lines?
Weekly meetings, and also certainly having joined the team more recently than the other members, I've reached out to each of them and, hey, let's hop on a call. Let's actually have one of these calls ourselves and get to know each other.
And those obvious to all of us, like we also practice this during the autonomy course as well. And Phoenix helps with that as well.
Sure. So guys, we're coming up to the last question I really have before I open it up to the audience. What advice would you guys give to anybody that is considering setting up one of these blueprint calls?
I think just to do it, not be afraid that you're going to have your arm twisted or anything like that. It's just we're just people. We want to know people. We want to get to know you, and just have a conversation. It's really very, very non-committal and just fun. So.
Yeah, I will say that I recommend for them just to do it. There's no judgments on the other side. Nobody's going to criticize you or anything. We're actually very glad and happy to get to know you and see how we can help you. If we can, if the course can be of help to you. If not, we'll definitely we'll try our best to find something that can help you in your situation. Or but coming back, yes, definitely book it. Don't be afraid. Just go and get to know someone so cool like we are. Super cool. So yeah, come get to know us.
Booking the call itself can be one of the most nerve-wracking parts, because there's this transition from kind of social media stalkering the autonomy site and opening all the emails. And then it's a real sign of commitment that, oh wow, I'm actually willing to talk to somebody, a real person, about this. And that's normal. That's natural. Plenty of people have done it. Plenty of people have got through to the other side. And it's the sooner you can get in to embrace that you want the change this might have it to offer and explore what it has, the sooner you can actually access that and make that forward progress.
Yeah, I agree with that. Once you've learned the basics of the course and you've seen Richard talk about it and you're genuinely interested, that's the right moment to book a call and talk with one of us so we can kind of create a personal plan for you of how it's going to work. Just like watching more videos about it can only go so far. So if you're genuinely interested, like if that's resonating, that's your signal to book a call.
Anybody else from the team have any feedback on that question as far as advice to give individuals considering taking the call?
I guess I just want to add, sooner is always better than later, because as the course like starts to the season will start in a few weeks, I believe, but it's like you there tend to be more special offers the earlier you get in. So even if you're just considering it, I think it makes sense to consider it sooner. You'll get a better deal.
All right, guys. Well, one last shot. Anybody else? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Because we're getting married right now.
Another thing I will say is that we are about to start season 12. So don't hesitate to look too much. We're about to start, but another one, even if it starts, we're starting on the 20th. There's new things, good things happening that day. But even if you cannot book a call with us before then, maybe after that, that's okay. Just book the call, and you're not going to miss much regarding lectures yet, because you can catch the lectures, and yeah, you're not going to miss much if you book the call after the 20th. But for sure, just do it. Yeah.
Well, I do want to kind of throw one correction out there, ladies and gentlemen, that you were expecting the 20th to be the first day. It has been pushed back to October 4th. So that's all right. You guys do have an extra little couple of weeks to get in and get signed up and get your calls in. And enrollment doesn't end after the first lecture. You can still continue being enrolled. I think it's like halfway through the entire course to where you can still join in.
My apologies. Thank you, Phoenix.
Well,
no worries, we do it live, you know.
I think there's like a concert on the 20th. So, you know, you get to join it's like a Jordan Page concert. And there's a lot of fun things happening before the first lecture.
Charles, I saw you on mute. Did you have anything else that you wanted to add in?
No, not anything at all. I think they covered it very, very well, don't you?
I absolutely do. And I think with that being said, now is the time we open it up to the prospective students. Guys, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, anything else that you guys want to discuss with our experienced team, now is your opportunity. And as Rich just said, the meet and greet is week 1. Let me pull it back up. Dang it. Tech Gremlins meet and greet is week 1 before October 4th. That's the lecture. October 4th is lecture 1. Meet and greet is on the 20th.
Hi, Phoenix. The Autonomy Welcome Celebration Jam with Jordan Page and Grant Presence is on Friday the 20th. Then the following week, we have the Autonomy Worldwide Meet and Greet, where we meet the graduates on the 27th. And that Sunday is where we get to meet all the new students. Lectures start October 4th, lecture 1, but everything's recorded. You're not going to miss anything because it's all recorded, but we do have several more weeks and some really great and fun events happening as we fire up season 12.
I think also this Sunday, Richard is doing a public Ask Me Anything.
Correct.
Usually at noon. Yeah, 12 Eastern.
That'll be the 15th this weekend. It'll be an AMA with Richard Grove. It is open to the public as well. So make sure to check your guys' emails for the link to register for that. But for the moment, I do want to open it up to all of the prospective students. Ladies and gentlemen, if there's anything that you guys want to ask the team, jump in, feel free. It's not required that you have to, come off your camera. But we are not mind readers, so you will have to unmute to get those questions out. Feel free, jump in, guys.
Hey, who's got the first question for us?
It's always the first one. It's always all right. Who's gonna break that seal?
Yeah.
And
Hi, everyone. I'll go.
There we are.
Yep. Hi, everyone.
Hey, Julianne.
Thank you all for being here, and I'm happy to join you. I'm wondering how many of you stayed up late on Friday evenings to catch the lectures live versus went to bed and woke up and watched the recording. And if you followed a mixed model, if you will, do you feel like there was a benefit to staying up till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning?
I know for me, when I went through my first season, I was driving expedited freight at the time. So I was, there was no stopping for me. If I had to keep driving until 5 a.m., it was whatever. It didn't bother me. So I kind of had an easy setup when it came to time allotment and my time availability. So yeah, for me, I was up the whole time sitting there. One of my favorite things is at the end of the lectures, everybody says bye and thanks. It's a lot of fun. It's very much like a group activity at the very end of the lectures. Everybody saying thank you. So yeah, like for me, I definitely did it 100% all the way through on the first shot.
Thank you, Phoenix.
So I'm on Eastern time. I don't know what time zone you're in, but yeah.
Likewise.
So what I would recommend, because it does help if you can stay up and watch the lecture, but that doesn't mean you have to stay for the Q&A, and the Q&A can run till that late. The lecture will typically be done by 12 or 1 a.m. And theoretically, let's say you were tired at midnight, you could do 3 hours of the lecture and watch the last hour on the replay. But there's something about doing it live where everybody's there and like you made that commitment. And like I think nowadays the replay comes up fast, but in the past, sometimes I'd wake up on Saturday, I'd be like, where's the replay? And it's, everyone's asleep. So it's like, it's like if you start procrastinating, suddenly you just start getting behind. It's like, if you can make it, I'd suggest watching as much of the lecture you can, then go to bed and watch the replay.
Thank you, Carl.
You're welcome.
I would say that the value in staying up late, and it was tough for me because I'm a morning person, so staying up late was definitely pushing me, but the value there in the community and the questions that you can ask and the answers you get from the community is just, it's invaluable. It's the best part of autonomy, as far as I'm concerned, is being able to interact with everybody who has completely different experiences and has the answers that you're looking for in ways that you never would have thought if you hadn't been there.
I appreciate that perspective, Ruth. Thank you.
You're welcome.
There is a big difference. I think it's somewhat psychological between watching a replay. Sometimes you're doing other things. Sometimes it's more like passively consuming material versus when you're doing it live and you know that it's happening live. It's a commitment that you make, and it's also something that I found for myself to be more present for. And the huge advantage, if you're able to, is that the course itself has only 2 Q&A sessions a week with Richard, and right after the lecture is one of the 2.
Thank you, Justin.
Vote for recording.
For me, I did make that commitment. It's very important to me to stay up late. I did the course with my daughter, and one of the things that I really enjoyed doing it is that right after the lecture, right after Q&A, we stay up and discuss even more, and we're talking about what we're learning. So, but that was my experience. But the commitment for me is that, and the vibe that I have doing it at that moment, to me, is very valuable. It's yeah.
Thank you, Olivia.
So if you've done, everybody went live except I. Saturday morning recording, live Q&A Sunday.
Yeah, I'm with Charlie. I did the same thing. I couldn't really, I'm on the East Coast. I'm not a late night person. I don't think I really got to watch any of the Friday nights. Maybe I'd watch it a little bit of at the beginning, and I always caught it on the replay. But the Sunday Q&A was like my home. It's where my family was. It's where I lived. And, for years, that's where I would just always go to the Sunday Q&A. And then everything else I would catch on recording. And I found my experience was, it was total immersion and total enrichment.
Thank you, Leah.
I think also too, to get the personal interaction with Richard is priceless, because we don't know how much longer we're going to have him live, as word per his words. So for me, the excitement was getting some feedback from my questions, and it's very inspirational to hear the words coming from him versus a recording,
Mm.
you know?
Yeah, I think to double down on what Tim said,
Thank you, Tim.
my biggest breakthroughs were in the Q&As, talking with Richard. For a long time, I held the idea of being the most consistent anarchist libertarian individual that puts liberty and truth and righteousness above everything else. And literally it was everything else. It was above my family. And it was one of the Q&As that we had where I was talking to Rich and just kind of opening up about that situation, where he helped me to realize that one of my biggest challenges that I had wasn't the various skills that I had or the jobs that I was doing. It was how I was prioritizing my life.
Mm.
I held this obedience to being the perfect anarchist above everything and above my children. And there was times where I wouldn't go and do family activities with my kids because there was a mask or something, ridiculous. And at the time I was only at home, every weekend, one weekend every 2 weeks. So if I didn't go to see stuff, I didn't see my kids again for another month.
Mm.
And having those experiences in person with Rich allowed me to reorganize what my actual values were and help me see that it was totally misaligned. So
Mm.
there's a lot of value in that. But when it comes to like the job that I do now, I do sales for a law firm. And I must have watched the replays for one of the sales trainings 20, 30 times. To, really, because I was driving, so I would just play it over and over and over and over and over again. And it helped me to solidify those ideas. So, I mean, there's value in both the live stuff as well as the recording.
Thank you, Phoenix. I appreciate you sharing that perspective.
The first few lectures also aren't as long, and so you kind of gradually progress into the like later and later nights. So maybe that'll be good.
Thanks, Carl. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Julianne.
Yeah, and
Well,
don't forget
guys,
about
you
that
popped the
lifetime
cherry. Anybody else have
enrollment
questions?
either.
Oh, sorry, James, go ahead, hit it.
Oh, no problem, man. I was just gonna encourage Julianne to not forget about the lifetime enrollment as well. So, that's a huge, like I like calling it like an anxiety diffuser. So in the you don't make it to the live Q&A as often as you might like or whatever. It's like, okay, well, maybe certain things in life have to gradually change, and like that's okay. That's what the lifetime enrollment's for,
Mm.
is to allow for that room for growth. Where as long as you're making the lecture, the replay, and getting that in, and you're taking in the information, the Q&A is crucial to have that time with the professor himself, so, but don't let that stop you. Don't let that create a mental roadblock if there's a time crunch on your hands, because you do have a lifetime enrollment.
I had forgotten about that, James. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so,
Yeah, I think one of the platinum options that we have in the course for students that want to do the absolute maximum and come with like, okay, I want everything included. I've already got a business. I need help setting all this stuff up. I think one of the maximum price points is around 15,000. And I closed a client today and I processed a $15,000 payment. And with the 15,000 that you get for the one-on-one direct access to Rich, in my opinion, I think that's going to be far more valuable than the $15,000 that this client just spent hiring our firm. So that one-on-one access to Rich is invaluable.
I'm going to add to that. Definitely. One of the things that happened to me is, as I mentioned, my daughter came with me and she did the course with me. And when she opened herself on a Q&A and said, I'm looking into doing this. I don't know if hopefully Richard remembers. I don't know, maybe you were there, Phoenix.
Oh yeah, I remember.
And he like fire hosed my daughter. And if I said that right, I don't know. I don't know if I said that correctly, but he had just said all these things and she was like, whoa. And other people jump in and start giving her ideas about what she could do. And we're working towards that. And since then, she's been very inspired about doing that for her. It's just slowly but surely. We wish we can move, like we can run on that, but it's just taking a bit of time. but it's still there. It's still in the focus. But yeah, just that Q&A was so valuable for her. I just wanted to add that. She decided to do what she's doing now, so.
That practice that you get from doing the integration exercises, right? I gave Olivia some extra practice one day because she called me and she's asking for me, right? She didn't know I was like already in the course. I don't know if she remembers this or not, but she called me and I'm like, oh, is this a practice call for real?
That was you. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, like we help each other practice for sure. Thank you, Tim.
Phoenix, I have another question, please.
$20.
How does one know one has graduated? I know there are 13 weeks and there could be a couple bonus sessions, but in terms of, is there a senior project, if you will? Is there a term paper that's due at the end? Like, is there a practice or a practicum?
So graduation is, in my opinion, fairly subjective. There is a specific graduation interview that all of the graduates will conduct. Generally, it's with another graduate. But graduation is simply the start.
Is simply
the start of your journey. Like once you graduate and once you finish the course and you've conducted your graduation interview, you now have access to the entire thing. Like it's a fire hose when you first sign up, but once you graduate, it's a tsunami. There is so much information that you have available at your hands that opens up to you. And a lot of it, like I said, it is very subjective to the individual, but there is that specific delineation point where, okay, you've conducted your graduation interview, that's done now, you're now considered a graduate. So it really is that graduation, but I think every individual has their own subjective approach to that position. I know there are some individuals that I think there was an individual in season 1 that just finished their graduation interview like in the last season, like season 11. So every individual is going to cross that path at their own point. But what makes you a graduate is conducting that graduate interview.
I see. Thank you.
Yeah, and you can develop that for yourself, because I do think it's good to have a project that you want to work on during the course, but not everyone's in that point where they have that project yet. So if you do have one, then during your mastermind groups, that can be your measure of accountability each week of like, here's what I want to get done on this project. So at the end, like if to you, having a chunk of projects done is your graduation, you can create that for yourself. It's not really up to Richard to decide what that is for you, but we'll help you figure that out.
Like an independent study, if you will.
Exactly.
That is one of the beauties of autonomy, is it's full of self-directed individuals. We get to define that success for ourselves. Like Richard has that graduation interview, but you can completely go through the entire course, absorb all of the material, apply it in your life, never touch base with autonomy again, and you have succeeded, you have graduated. So yeah, I hope that helps.
It does. Thank you.
Can I chime in on this one too?
Oh, absolutely, Jill.
This is the really cool part of autonomy, because I was thinking that the end would, I would be told when the end was like, oh, you have passed this milestone, this milestone, this milestone. Here's your diploma. And then that's not it. It's that might be why it's hard for some people to graduate, because it's when you give yourself permission, like, I'm done. I did it. I did not give up on myself. I did enough, like I feel like I have graduated from this course. And so I remember there was one exercise that I didn't do fully. I think it was the tough conversations exercise or something. And I was like, oh, I don't think I can schedule my graduation interview. I don't know if I did that. And then I thought about it, and I did have a tough conversations interview, and I decided that met the criteria. And so I was like, you know what? I was here the entire season. I participated. I showed up. I did the work. I have a plan now that I didn't have before. So it's like, okay, I scheduled my graduation interview. And there's nobody saying, no, you didn't do enough.
I like that. It's just like you didn't give up on yourself halfway, therefore you graduated.
That's great, Jill. Thank you. And congratulations.
Yeah, like what Phoenix said too. It's a beginning, not an end. You know, you go through the public school system and you graduate, and more or less you're just left there, and you're still left with the question of, wait, now what? You know, I thought some great big thing was supposed to happen when this magical event occurred, and it's, you know, magical thinking by definition, in a sense. Whereas autonomy graduation isn't so much of a, I mean, it is a rite of passage, but it's also, now you have the skills. What are you going to do? You know, it's more up to you than some formal process, but there is a rite of passage attached to it.
Thank you, Justin. I have another question if nobody else has a question to ask. How did you all become experienced team leads, I guess, is the title?
Well, just to answer in general, you know, during autonomy, there are people who kind of just passively consume, and then there's people like you who will unmute and ask questions and participate and actively engage. And the people who actively engage the most tend to get the most out of autonomy. And I think, you know, those people become more familiar, and then they get known for certain things, and they get invited to certain projects. So it's just like, keep showing up and keep being hungry for growth, basically, is what I would say.
I coach football, youth football, and one of the things that I tell my quarterbacks, my middle linebackers is leadership leads. Those that step up and make things happen, stuff happens to them. So like if you want to get on a specific team, if you want to be a part of a specific project, be active in that. So the same way that Carl said, you know, those that put into it, get out what they're putting in, those that unmute, those that take off of you know, show their face on camera, those type of things. Those that are more active, you're going to develop faster than those that are just passively observing, for the most part. So that's, you know, that's generally where most individuals get placed onto a specific team or something like that based on what their interests are.
And autonomy is just designed as a safe space for us to do that, even when we don't know, but it's okay to be awkward while you're learning, because we're all here to grow together. So it's really the perfect place to step up and try new things.
Very different from the real world. Thank you.
Also, there's that thing that I experienced that I got inspired by seeing someone else do the thing, like be a leader, and I'm like, hey, I want to do that. And then it made it seem like it was more possible. So it was easier for me to just ask, hey, can I do that? And the answer is always going to be yes. It's like, yes, come join us. You know, it's like, it's really that, that, you know, wanting to participate and having that questioning mentality, like the mindset, right? This is the mindset of an autonomy graduate. You automatically kind of fit in because you're like to take action, and you're not just stuck in life. You're like, hey, I know the answer to get the thing to go do the other thing. So there's always like for me, I really got inspired just by seeing people like James Cordner started reading the first book he started reading. What was that, James? It was,
It's called The Hungry Caterpillar.
that's not the one I was thinking, but
the
it
book
was one
club.
that it was
Tragedy and Hope.
Tragedy and Hope, yeah. And I was like, that's cool. So, and then all of a sudden I seen a YouTube channel with a prior graduate. He started reading books as well. And I'm like, wow, this is the thing, we can do this. And you see, we all have different like personalities and strengths, weaknesses, and things that make us want to quit. So it's like, whatever that thing is, don't let it make you quit, because you're gonna bump your head up against that thing, whatever it is, because I sure have done it. Took me a couple of seasons. Anyway, yeah, that's my
Thank you.
take.
Thank you, Tim.
Yeah, I think that's true to Richard's style. Like, I grew up with this mindset of credentialism. I've got to get all these degrees and certifications, and then I can do the job. It's not actually how the real world works. The real world rewards action and effort and risk. And like, that's the, that's Richard's whole story. And he's going to keep reinforcing that. It's like, you don't have to be perfect, you just have to be willing to try. And like, those who try get, those who do a little get more responsibility and more responsibility. And that's also the better way to learn than just like reading about something or hearing about something. You've got to practice it in context.
I appreciate that, Carl. Thank you.
I have a question. I don't know if it's applies here or anything.
Great. Let's hear it.
Fire away.
I'm wondering if autonomy generally, I'm thinking, does autonomy have like a specific mission statement or a specific concise description? I don't want to say definition or description really of what the main goal is to get just out of the whole thing. Like, is there a mission statement? Is there a specific goal in mind? And I understand it's like a branching out of like whatever skill set you can bring to the table that is a real world quality thing that people actually need. Like, I'm a professional seamstress and I work for myself out of my house, and I do it as a community person, like, because I do a lot of community involvement already. So I'm just wondering if that's the same kind of idea here, or is there a specific goal, a mission statement, that sort of thing?
That's a really great question, Sarah, and I'm going to qualify what I'm about to say, that there probably is something specific. But one of the difficult things we run into, especially when you haven't joined the course, is it's really difficult to put how much that the course does contain into something so specific. And though this is not course material, it's more my experience over the 4 years. It is the education that you should have received that public schooling did not necessarily want you to receive based on the history of it. And it's a curriculum that in a better world wouldn't need to be here, but currently there is a need for it because of how much is going on otherwise in the world to keep us from this sort of information. And the objective is self-autonomy, per definition. It's to equip you with the tools that you need to lead your own life without necessarily a dogmatic approach to what you should do with that life.
So would it be fair to say like a kind of mission statement or overall, I don't know if you guys have actually put an official one together for that, but would it be fair to say something like it's about just leading by example and showing others how to do the same thing for themselves?
If it's okay with Leah, I was actually on a project to work on the mission statement last season, so I can share what we came up with if you'd be interested.
I was just wondering, because usually projects that I've been in like this, or really it's usually been more like physical, like in the not really online kind of stuff, but really like in doing actual real community events, like person to person. And that's what I'm more used to doing in practice. So usually, even like a small community project, they design some kind of mission statement. So it was just something I was wondering.
Yeah, so I'll just share like kind of what our team's view was, or if Leah wants to chime in, that's okay.
No,
too.
that's lovely because go ahead, Carl. We thought how important it was to have this, and we put together a think tank of some of the brilliant minds in autonomy to develop it, and it's part of what we are somewhat redesigning some of the materials we're putting out, and they came up with this really incredible PowerPoint that encapsulated a lot of the values and ideals, and that should be out in very, very soon. But please, Carl, what we've got so far is just absolutely brilliant.
Thank you. So I can't share my screen, so I'm just going to read it, but it is 4 parts, and that's to encapsulate each specific piece of autonomy, because it's sort of like the hero's journey cycle, right? Where you start in the normal world and there's this call to adventure and a mentor and there's challenges. So I'll read the 4 parts of our mission statement candidate, which is: autonomy is a rite of passage to A, inspire a new way of successful living, not tied to authority and coercion. B, equip the high-value skills and tools of a transformed lifestyle of excellence, integrity, and freedom. C, to practice and apply these in a supportive community of like-minded individuals. And ultimately, D, to achieve breakthrough success and contribute to a better world. Right. So it's this whole process where you're coming in and you're challenged and you're building new skills in a community, and then you're taking those back to your day-to-day life, to create the ideal future you want to work on.
Thanks. Yeah, I think that actually sounds pretty good. I think but I mean, I guess I always kind of think about that, what you were just saying, I kind of utilize all that stuff myself, and I've always just put it in the lead by example, be what, and I've
Right.
had those experiences myself where I'm going to do what I know is like the correct thing to do. And,
like the golden rule sort of situation.
Yeah. And, it's actually kind of funny, just as an observational effect, not doing this as intentionally, but just being the way that I am. Other people will tend to be like, oh, okay, I can do that. And, like when everybody was wearing the mask and I was just like, that's okay, I'm fine. And like other people would be like, you'd have all kinds of people being all tripped out about it. But then like there's 3 or 4 people in the crowd be like, yeah, why am I doing this? And then they'd all follow. So I think that sounds quite nice. Beautiful. Thank you.
Hi, Sarah. This is Richard. I can answer your question more specifically. And
Okay.
if you choose to do an enrollment call, I'd recommend Ruth, because you guys both have a passion for stitching, and she has some projects that she's done recently. So you could hit it off the bat right there to talk about sewing before you even get to the autonomy part. To answer your question, the mission statement, yes, what Carl said, and that was designed by graduates, and they're kind of in their own words explaining what the course is designed to do. But basically, it's designed to empower an individual in one of many ways. First, we have to learn how to show up for ourselves, and we have to learn how to do that consistently until we see results. And then once you can do that for yourself, now let's access some methods. A method of getting things done, a method of conflict resolution, a method of learning anything, and a method of problem solving. So we learn those methods, and then on top of those methods, now we're empowered to the nth degree, but we're overwhelmed. So now we have to learn how to prioritize, and once we prioritize, we have exercises that parallel the curriculum. So I'll talk about that in a second. So after we learn prioritization and cutting through overwhelm, then we learn the high value art of sales, which is problem solving and serving people. It's something you do for people with their permission, informed consent, and you're acting as a fiduciary to help them ask and answer the questions they need to make an informed decision on basically any given subject. So they learn that process just for showing up for themselves. That's a process we teach throughout the course. And once we get past there, now it's practical applications of, you need to have a talent that you can offer to the market. You need to know how to take it to market and make enough money so you have more money coming in than what you need. And you need to learn how to scale and balance your life and work as much as you kind of need to achieve the goals that you're designing. Along the way, you'll create new products or new innovations and all sorts of other good stuff. But these are all things that we need to know to survive and thrive, that they don't teach us in school. And I learned these skills about 30 years ago, and they paid off like 200% in the first 5 years. And I had to go into debt to get these skills. I didn't have the money back then. And I believed in myself enough to know that I could learn. And I knew what I was learning was relevant. And then I took it to the market, and the market liked my offer. And it's because of these skills that I was also able to handle the transition of losing my career to become a whistleblower under a federal law that was supposed to be there to protect people like me, to protect the public. And then I learned a lot about how the world works along the way. So the skills are evergreen. You'll use them every day. It's not just a business thing. It's not just a single skill thing. These are skills I had to use tonight when we were at a parking lot. I'm in Florida on family vacation, but I was listening in tonight because you guys are so excellent. I was so proud of you guys. I'm like, look at them. First off, for those of you who are first timers here, everybody who talked tonight, they were a little nervous. They had a little trepidation. Oh, they've got to speak in front of people they don't know. So they're still working on themselves. We're all still work in progress, right? So I'm really proud of them. But we were in the parking lot of the grocery store. I was waiting for my wife to come out, and I told my son, the car's engine just changed. It's not running right. Now, right before we went to Florida, I had new spark plugs, new coils, new wires, all this stuff put in. But now my car is misfiring. So I limped it back to my parents' house. They live in a little gated community. And I opened the hood, and I'm like, what am I going to do? And this is the second automotive issue I've had on this trip. So I said, what's the grammar of this situation? What are the individual parts and how do they work? And then I got some testing tools, and I was able to verify I've got a misfire on cylinder 7. What are we going to do? How's this going to end? Is it going to end with a tow truck and extending the vacation or whatever? And I thought, no, we want this to be a best case or the worst case scenario. And I thought, well, what would that be? And I thought, let's check the wires, right? If the wires aren't connected, it's not going to work right. And sure enough, there was a wire that was newly installed, but we have 1,000 miles on it, and it held in place incorrectly. And then in the parking lot, it decided to fall off. And it looked like, first inspection, it looks like it's in place. But in fact, it was several inches from the destination, and that means that cylinder won't fire. So once I got the grammar and the logic and I removed the contradiction, I was able to get the tools and put the wire back on, and the truck runs fine now. And I avoided many more thousands of dollars of costs that if I took it to the garage, they would charge me before they found that problem. So I use these skills every day just to like get my family through Murphy's Law, let's say, right? So even if you're not planning on having a business, you know, you have a business, but other people on this call might not have a business. They might be in paycheck world. Even if you're in paycheck world, up your talent, up your skills, up your market value, use these skills every day in a personal way, a professional way, a social way. It's like, I don't know. It's an incredible thing that this needs to be offered to the world. And yet we're in a state where this is not being offered by other people, and it needs to be there. So I'm just trying to help the universe unfold its plan, and its plan is not for us to be slaves. So we got to liberate ourselves. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. I certainly appreciate all of that.
Yeah, I'm glad Richard's here to explain it in his own words, but if I had to consolidate like how I think of Richard's message to like 2 words, it's success plus ethics. And I don't think that's easy to find anywhere else. Like, you know, Richard teaches how to solve problems, and you don't have to lie, cheat, and steal to solve problems if you know the right way to do it. And that gives you a lot of confidence in whatever you're pursuing in life.
It allows you to be more choosy of where and with whom you do business. If you have an employer, like Phoenix will tell you, and Justin will tell you, they took, you know, I think sales is week 7 and 8, right? So it's just 2 weeks of a 12-week course, but they took that skill set seriously. They took it to market. And I know at least Justin ran into a place, and Cody, on their first time out, they want you to do unethical things. And I've never had to lie to a client in order to help a client, full stop. And I've used this skill set to earn many millions of dollars. So Justin, if you're still around, what was it like to have an employer task you with serving people and then ask you to lie to them?
Well, it honestly looks like not having a job, because at that point you got to make a decision internally. Am I going to go along with the unethical thing they're asking me to do, or am I going to go along with what's inside of me? And so they left me with no choice but lie to the client or lie to the management to get out of the situation. And I chose lie to the management to get out of the situation and then go deal with that fire. But at least I had the conscience of the client, was full disclosure on what was actually happening.
And you've got a portable skill set, so you can easily go elsewhere
And I
and
did.
find a better position where you can work in an objective moral framework. That's the trick. It's not being served in the marketplace. Like, nobody wants you to know how to do this because there'd be a more honest marketplace, which would benefit everybody, and it would give us all great advantage, because that's how you build trust in the marketplace. All transactions are built on trust. If everyone thinks sales is cringeworthy, who wants to be doing business? But we all buy from salespeople, right? All of us have cars for the most part. We all bought them from somebody. And so if we can learn how to do it for ourselves and demonstrate, like, there's a better way and there's way less friction, the market will naturally adapt. But this, like, very nutritious source of information has been kept from the market artificially to keep people weak and placid and demoralized.
Yeah, I know in my situation, I work for attorneys, and attorneys have a very bad rap, and I'm an anarchist, so that is even weirder. But I made sure that
when he says that, because that can have scary connotations, and every time he's like, I'm like, clarify that, dude. It just means he doesn't accept that another human being has some sort of authority over him, because we're all just human beings and we're all under the same code of ethics and don't hurt each other, right? So I just wanted to explain that, because some people only know of it as like terrorism in
Firebomb
1900s
stuff.
and World War I. Yeah, that's stupid stuff.
Yeah.
Those are not.
The way I define anarchism is just a rejection of the use of violence as a means of social control. That's it. When I did my initial interviews, because I was really concerned about, like, okay, am I really going to get this job with an attorney? Like, they work for the bar and all this stuff, and I've dogged these individuals ad nauseum for the last 8 years. And when I went into it, I just didn't lie whatsoever. I had 100% honesty and candor with these individuals, and to the point where when it came to me actually doing the job, they knew that they weren't going to get me to lie to anybody. They weren't going to be able to convince me to manipulate somebody or be deceptive. The worst I have to do is be ambiguous, because there's things I can't tell people because the law prevents me from doing that. And these are their law licenses that I'm putting in jeopardy if I do tell somebody some guidance or anything like that. So there's situations where I have to be ambiguous, but that's because I don't know what the laws are. So I'm okay with that. And then we got another sales individual that does, like, outside lead generation. He's a 60-year-old man that's been in sales for 40 years. He did not learn ethical sales whatsoever. And so in, casual conversation, he'll say, oh, do this, do that, do this, do that. And it's, totally unethical. And, like, I have no problem just completely busting him out in front of the entire office, being like, no, that's kind of wrong, and you should feel bad about that. But, like, when it comes to, like, the level of ethics and the action that I have as a salesperson for an attorney, I just don't hold anything back at all ever. I'm 100% honest, 100% blunt with them all the time. And I won't bite my tongue when it comes to these attorneys at all. So if they wanted to fire me, they would have before I made them almost $2 million. So at this point, they can't really complain, because, like I said, I just closed a $15,000 deal for them today using the skills that Rich teaches. So as long as you're going into it with honesty, most of the time, at least for me, I haven't had any issues.
I can definitely relate to that, where you've had where people are having like employers in the past where they've asked you to do something you're not okay with. And that's why I primarily don't work for anybody and at my house, because all I really need is a sewing machine and 30 years of experience.
Awesome.
But it was making me think of what you guys are talking about, like in the circles now of the, I don't know what you would call it, the seamstress world. You have like businesses that open up and they do professional alterations and things like that. And I've even been offered jobs with places like that, and I was just like, no, because of the way that the people who own those kind of shops, the way they treat the people who are coming to them for help, and how like sometimes they're a little bit too gabby and they're talking about their clients like work that they need done, you know, if that makes sense. Like, and I had to pull myself all the way. It made me like pretty unpopular. It's like the reason why I didn't go into doing clothes professionally or doing like, because I've been, you know, offered to go to do spots for like, you know, or not big movies, but, you know, positions where they wanted to bring me in to do like costumes and stuff for big events. And I've had to pull away and not do it because of the way the entire industry works when they pull in a seamstress to do that stuff. And then the way they treat the people that they are dressing or altering for, and it can be quite demeaning. And even I found it very difficult to hear about them even talking about the work they were doing for the clients in a negative way. So I don't know if that's something that comes up either for you guys, that kind of thing.
Ooh, can I answer this one?
Absolutely.
This is my favorite thing about autonomy. So as soon as you started talking, Sarah, I was like, oh my gosh, I have something to say about this. And I think I even went on and on about this in my graduation interview, but one of the biggest mantras that you learn early on is no masters, no slaves, and everybody's on equal footing. And, you know, I honestly can't find anywhere else that has held true. You know, I was season 7, so I've been around a long time. I've worked for Richard behind the scenes, and so I've heard, you know, like, okay, if there was a time where you would be backstabbing, or if there were any opportunity, like this is where something, oh, can you believe da da da? Like none of that has ever happened. Like not in Q&A. And actually my favorite thing about Richard is during Q&A, the more nervous you are, the more unsure of yourself you are, like the more gentle he is and encouraging. Like there is no dumb question. There is no like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you're even now, like it's hard for me to talk, you know, to come on and talk. And that happens to a lot of people. And it's always just like understanding, encouraging. The leadership does not look down on anyone. They don't, it's not like, oh my gosh, can you believe this person? I've developed relationships with other people within autonomy, you know, kind of offline. And we've never had a scenario where we're like, oh my gosh, talking about so-and-so, you know, it's always encouraging. It's always building each other up. It's always, can you believe what this person's doing, or how can I help, or whatever. So I totally understand where you're coming from. I think gossip is, you know, a trap that a lot of people fall into and it's hard to get out of. And I have to say that the integrity is through and through, you know, from the top to the bottom. There isn't anybody like shaming anybody else or backstabbing anybody else. So that's the main thing that I appreciate about this group.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't even suggest that anybody who would be associated here would be doing that. I was just thinking about like all of our individual skill sets and how we've experienced working with other people in our fields and how they practice their skill set and just how they generally behave as human beings towards their clients or their customers rather. And with the world of, where you're making clothes and altering clothes and building attire like that, it can be quite, I don't know, just like even them talking about like, oh, I did this customer so-and-so thing. And, it's something very private, and I'm just wondering if other people had that kind of experience, like they're listening to somebody else. Phoenix was reminded me of that when he was talking about his story. So that's always a big problem for me, like talking, like I don't talk about my clients. So I mean,
No, I think that's a professional that's professionalism. You know, I've worked for public speakers for, I don't know, over 10 years, and I would never, no matter what transpired in my conversations with them or what I know about them, I would never ever discuss that publicly or even privately with other people, because that discernment, there's something about the work that we do creating content. We're not just running a university, we're fighting a spiritual war for humanity. And there's got to be some type of trust there and some type of connection with people, that you don't betray people like that, right? Because if everybody else is tearing us down, why on earth would we even for 1 second do that to each other? And we're all human beings, and we're all in this experience of learning and growing and making mistakes and coming back from them. And if you make mistakes, just go clean them up, and everybody can forgive each other, or not, or just part ways. But there's no reason for people to be discussing their clients and what is going on privately with them. I just don't think that's a good practice. I've never heard it done. I would never do it. And there's such a high level of integrity in providing value into people's lives. There's nothing of value you would be providing. It would be the opposite of providing value to people's lives if you were to engage in such behavior. And so that's my opinion about it.
great. Thank you guys. I appreciate all those answers you gave.
Thank you, Sarah. You're welcome.
And Sarah, with some of the other skills that you have, I don't mean to like blow up your spot here, guys. Like I know Sarah. I didn't bring her here. She showed up on her own. But she's got some skills. And Sarah, like for all you showcase some of those other skills you have, and next thing you know, somebody needs your help with some of the other work that you're really good at. And that's something that Autonomy, being a part of the network, being a part of the community, and having the exposure to the lectures and really taking in that information, like next thing you know, it brings something out of you that you didn't realize was as valuable as it really is. And I see that potential in you. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about this process. And I'm actually really excited that you're here.
Thanks, James. I was like, oh, look, James is here.
Oh,
So
look.
that's actually one of the things what James is talking about. One of my skills, I guess, is I end up doing a lot of art, and I've given the offer, and I've actually produced quite a bit of art as a free service to anybody who is teaching some level of whatever they're teaching, as long as it's on this kind of path. So that's probably what he's referring to. So I do that quite a bit.
Yep.
What is CF in your logo?
Who, me? Oh,
Yeah.
okay. CF is just initials for, it's a genetic condition that very rarely people are born with, called cystic fibrosis. Most people haven't even ever heard of it. So
Thank you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, if there is anybody, we are coming up to our end of the hour, but we are fully ready to blow past that that soft limit. If anybody else does have any questions, comments, concerns, feel free to jump in. You're not limited by time. Anybody else have any questions for our experience team tonight?
Well, Phoenix, if you wouldn't mind, I'd like to do some clarification on the pricing that was discussed.
Yes, please.
Now,
Yeah.
I know it's been a minute since you've been around, and things have changed a little bit. In the past, the packages had a bit different names, And when Autonomy Unlimited was providing services, they were folded into some of those higher level packages, and they are not they're not like that anymore. So in order to be able to just give people some clarification about what the packages actually are, I just want to provide that actual information. And we don't really always talk about prices in like a live webinar. We like people to kind of get an idea of the value, and then you know, have that revealed to them in a way that they can you know, ask questions and things like that. So I'm going to do that for you here now. So I'm going to just give you the basic pricing structure. So the entry level package is Autonomy Gold, and it comes with all of the regular features of Autonomy. It's basically the full package, but for 2 other programs that are a little bit more special programs. So that's $5,500. Now, there are discounts, there are specials, there are things that we do to help people get in with those, and it just depends on you know, what kind of package that you're getting and what specials are running at that time. Then the Platinum package, that's the middle tier package, that includes the Pro Media course taught by Richard Grove and Autonomy experts, and that's myself right now. We're actually going to be having a second Pro Media class. We're going to branch that course out into multiple courses to be able to teach people the technology and the skills they actually need hands-on to be able to create all of these things. You get the philosophy and the core teaching and the gold package, but then, and you could take the gold package and then you could a la carte pick up Pro Media the next couple seasons, you see. So the Platinum package, it's $8,000, and it includes 1 entire year, which is 2 full sessions of the Pro Media for the entire year. And you learn how to build your course. You learn a lot of basic and advanced skills and media. Give me 1 second. Okay, sorry about that. You get to learn how to build in Kajabi. You get to learn you know, graphics. You get to learn how to do video editing, workflow, tools, project management. There's so much packed into that course. Now the secondary course is going to be teaching, I believe it's going to be Premiere, I'm sorry, not Premiere, InDesign. It's going to be like a design course where maybe you'll learn some InDesign, some PowerPoint. It's a little bit in development, but it's coming right in to season 12, and it's going to be incredible, you know. And so the vision is that course the Pro Media gets fully built out. So that's a really great value to be able to go into that.
And the gist of Pro Media is it's everything that's in Autonomy is 12 weeks. It's like a second course that runs for an additional 12 weeks concurrent to the Autonomy course. So it's for people already moving. It's not for people trying to get off square one. In that micro course, which is Pro Media, part of the Platinum, you're learning all the elements of organizing ideas all the way through to production. For some people, that's a course. For some people, it's learning how to do the skills to deliver other people's offers to the market as a freelancer. So there's people in there learning video skills and graphic skills, because those are the 2 easiest entries into the market right now that pay $20-30 an hour all day, every day, because people need video editing and they need thumbnail graphics. So if we teach people how to do those, you know, as an additional step, then there's also people in the market that we know that like to hire people who are Autonomy graduates. So it's like, you know, it's a second course. It's, you know, a couple days before the major lectures on Friday. And it's for people who can drink from the tidal wave with a straw and want more.
Yeah, thank you, Richard. So then if you were to want to have that personal guidance from Richard, there's the VIP level, and it includes the Pro Media, includes everything. And it's 11,000, it's not 15. So that's a lot better for people. And it includes an accountability group that meets bi-weekly throughout the course, and you get it for the entire season, and it's with other top level VIPs in their field and autonomy experts. so that you have a support system. You have Richard and a support system guiding you through that program during your actual season of autonomy. And that can also be joined by anybody at any season. If you're from season 2, you can join the Navigator accountability group. You can join Pro Media, right? So we're bringing in different elements into autonomy to enrich the program and build it and watch it grow. It just seems like it's always growing and being crafted into these incredible offers. So that's the pricing packages for just, the 3 main tiers. Then there's kind of a package where you can get your feet wet, and it's called Autonomy Activate, and it's the first 6 weeks, and it's half price. It's $2,500. Let me see, half of $2,575. So you can come in, see how everything works for you, see if that's what you want to, if you're getting the value of it, and if you want to take the entire course, then you can go ahead and take the rest of it. There's also Autonomy Elements, which is all of the recordings. You can just buy the recordings of one season and watch it on your own. It's a do-it-yourself. You're not going to get the community. You're not going to get the integration exercises. But a lot of people who do get that, they come back in and they say, no, I have watched so many things and I want to be part of this. And they realize the piece they were missing when they watch it. They have a little bit of, a revelation that the community is for them, and they actually upgrade and join fully and get the lifetime membership. And then there's the family plan, where if you join and then you want to bring in a family member, we do that at 50% off, because we recognize the need for people to bring in their family members, and instead of just watching over their shoulder and not having that full experience themselves. So I believe I've covered the packages. So if anybody has any questions about those, what are your questions?
If you guys do a starter package, for instance, and you do the first 6 weeks and you come back the next season or the season after and you said, I bought the starter package, I want to finish the course, we would recognize what you've already put in. So we try to let people do it on their own time, and they get over their excuses, because these are things we need to teach them to do anyway. And so we try to build a ramp so that price is not a real obstacle to block someone who really wants to get started. We tried to offer the flagship course, and then we have the overkill options for the few people who need those things. But 85% of the people need the gold package. 15% of the people need the platinum package, and maybe 5% of the students need the VIP type services, and they already have successful businesses and they want to scale and grow those businesses. So we try to provide a spectrum. Now, if, like Leah said, if you guys have questions, we can help you flesh those out.
Yeah, and also I wanted to tell you as well, there was a time it was sort of a secret. It's not like this anymore because there's 1,000 people here, but when I started Autonomy, they would say everybody join, nobody gets turned away. It's a little different now because we have a much broader scale of people coming in, and it is selective. It's not just everybody doesn't get the offer to come into Autonomy. We're definitely weeding out people who would disrupt our community or not be able to succeed. They're not going to be fits here. So it's really for people who have those abilities to succeed and be part of the community. So now we tried to find ways to make it affordable to people so that we have payment plans, and you don't have to have credit. You don't have to go through a credit check. We can make our own payment plans for people. And we require a deposit, but they can extend out depending on the person's situation. And I work with a lot of people to try to get them the payment plan that works for them and to help them and find out what their budget is. So there's always that opportunity to come in, and you haven't learned all your negotiating skills yet that you'll learn in Autonomy, but don't feel like you can't come and talk to us about your finances. And we have friends who also can help you get your finances sorted out as well. And that's part of one of the things the experience team does, is they have those resources, right? Lisa still runs Wealth Battle, right? Maybe you need to go and get all your finances sorted out for 6 months. Things like this. We have resources for everybody. And, you know, we're not trying to just get everybody to buy autonomy. We want autonomy for people who will be successful by getting autonomy. And those people, we will facilitate them somehow to help them get in.
And if you guys are like having trouble with finances, do not feel bad. Literally, I spoke to Lisa today and discussed coming back to Wealth Battle because as many times as I've tried to set up a budget for myself, I cannot maintain a budget. So like I'm going back to Wealth Battle once football season ends in about 6 weeks here. I'm going back to Wealth Battle to finish getting my budget set up so I can stay on course and not quit on it this time. I think I've tried 2 or 3 times so far. And so like if your budget isn't where it should be, don't feel bad. They're amazing. Lisa and Kaysen are awesome with budgeting and Wealth Battle.
They are. And Nathan, my friend Nathan is here. He's in their program. He's been in their program for what, 3 years. 3 years he's been in their program, and it's made a big difference. Yeah, he said he's very successful because of it.
How I could do this.
Yeah. So what are your questions, guys, about, you know, the pricing or anything else? Any questions? The whole floor is open for everybody and everything.
What I'm wondering is if there's anybody on the call who wants to schedule their blueprint call, but maybe there's still something on their mind that's preventing them from doing so. And if that person in this room right now would have the courage to come on the mic and talk about what's getting in the way.
While people are thinking about that, I just wanted to add a note about the first time I invested in myself. And it wasn't this course, it was another course, but it changed my trajectory. And I had never spent money on myself in a course like that. But I knew that I needed these changes, and I knew that I needed a program, and I needed mentoring, and I needed assistance. And it opened my mind to that type of investment, and that was new to me. And you know, I honestly never thought that anything like that would be within my reach, but for me actually coming to autonomy, learning that the things I were doing were skills because I really didn't know it, and then being able to use those skills on the market, learn more, you see, and be able to have income, have disposable income, you know, be able to take my cats to the vet anytime, be able to, you know, buy really high quality cat food, things that, you know, would be a struggle in the past. I feel like that it all changed with autonomy, and then my mindset to be able to be successful. But I had a fun question. I don't know if you guys want to, I have a fun question that I thought that this would be really fun to ask because it kind of helps me get to know a person's personality a little bit. So I was wondering for the experience team, if you could tell me what your favorite movie is and why.
It's hard to. Okay, please go.
Sorry, Carl.
I didn't want to go. I just have a timer where I go.
I do. I'm in between two, but I think one of the ones that really resonates with me, it's called Penelope. It's I don't remember the year or anything, but it's about this girl that she's born with the pig nose. And she grows, well, I can give you the story of the movie, but the reason why it's because at the end, she just needed to realize within themselves, she needed to love herself. And that will take the curse away. And that to me, and that liberate her, and she was set free, and it was so good. I loved it. It resonates so much with me. So that's my movie.
I love it.
I have many, because so many good movies came out like during my teenage years, like, you know, Lord of the Rings and Star Wars and whatnot. But since this week I've been rewatching the Matrix movies, so I'm gonna go with the first Matrix movie because I think it's a great metaphor for this course as well, of like this guy stuck in a job and in an uninspiring life. He knows there's something better out there, and he's sort of invited into, you know, to look behind the curtain of how the world works. And after he figures out like what the real world actually is, like he gains new powers, and he comes back as like this superhero version of himself, and like that fake world can no longer hurt him, like he's empowered. And I just think that's such a great metaphor for learning truth and learning self-empowerment. You know, many of us can relate to wanting that for ourselves, I think.
Just quickly, that reminds me of Richard's recent analogy. What's the difference between 1984 and The Matrix?
The year.
The
1999.
1984 didn't have a protagonist like Neo to come in and be the hero and change the world. But thank you, that was amazing. Yeah.
It was dystopic.
Mine has always been Jack with Robin Williams. The story of, you know, Robin Williams being this 40-year-old, 10-year-old, and how, you know, you really have to appreciate the time that you have available, because nobody's here forever. We're all gonna die, and having that understanding of that, I think, has always kind of kept me moving towards my goals. So yeah, Jack's one of my favorites.
Nice. Thank
I
you.
really like the treehouse scene in that movie.
Heck yeah.
I'd go with Serenity of the Firefly series. Ragtag group, you know, definitely on the resistance side against Galactic Empire, that effectively goes to the edge, discovers a secret that the Empire doesn't want everybody to know, and they literally have to fight tooth and nail to be able to share it publicly, and in the end they get out. You know, the Empire isn't all totalitarian after all.
Serenity was Goram awesome.
Yeah, it was.
Shiny.
Shiny.
What was the villain's name in that movie? It was like Faceless, or it was some guy with no name. But I remember they had to broadcast this message to the whole galaxy or something. If only that worked today. It doesn't seem to work anymore.
You got to
I
go
have
through
to
pro
say-
media to get that skill.
Yeah. I have to say Hook is my favorite, with Robin Williams. That movie demonstrated how when you get older, you lose your imagination. So I think that just sums it all up. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I don't know what the question was, but my answer is Disney's The Kid with Bruce Willis, the original one, where, I don't know, what was the question? But you guys are telling good stories.
Your favorite movie and why?
My favorite movie in life?
And why? Why
Oh,
is
and
that?
why? Oh, that's easy. My favorite movie has always been and continues to be It's a Wonderful Life.
It says so much about you. Go ahead, why?
Well, first off, I didn't know Frank Capra was a war propagandist at the time, but I've always liked how, you know, there's a better side of Bedford Falls. Takes people to realize it. If those people are placid and demoralized, it turns into Pottersville.
Doing the right thing gets rewarded in the end, even if it's a struggle along the way.
knew you were going to say that movie.
But on getting in touch with the child inside you that still is supposed to be there when you're adult, so you can be creative and innovative and have ingenuity to overcome problems. Like Disney's The Kid, where like Bruce Willis is this corporate type, but he's forgotten how to be himself, right? So there's those good reminder movies. I think Hook was another one of those, right? These rites of passage that we need as individuals that otherwise are being purposefully obscured because they would empower us otherwise. And then we could challenge the system. So the system that's in power throughout human history always suppresses any new ideas because it's a challenge to their authority and to their power. So we're just living through a history that has repeated. It's just, you know, it doesn't repeat, but it rhymes, as Mark Twain said it.
That that's illustrative of my favorite movie, which is Contact, where, you know, the protagonist is trying to get this new vision and idea out, and there's just one insurmountable struggle after the next, philosophical, spiritual, financial, and yet she fights and fights, and it's about something that's intangible that nobody else will ever know or see but herself, and yet somehow she's able to bring that to the world and convey that and get people to understand. And and there's more than just the self in the universe. And it's expansive and incredible, yet all connected, and in the end everybody just needs each other.
Who is the actress in that? What's her name?
Jodie Foster.
Mine is The Prestige.
Wow.
Yes. I was just watching Corbett's New World film literature and the New World Order video on The Prestige. I haven't seen it yet, but I need to.
Yeah, that movie, it took me about maybe 4 times watching it when it first came out to really get a grasp on what was going on in that film. And that might be a little bit more than some people needed, but for me to like really be able to look at it and see it for the whole throughout the whole movie wasn't at the time, because of outstanding circumstances, was a pretty difficult thing for me to do. But like walking away, like it just blew my mind. Where you have these 2 guys that are just in this, you know, this like blood feud, or whatever, and one guy just gets it, and you know, of course, that's Christian Bale's character. He just seems to have this knack for it. He knows what it's going to take, the dedication, the sacrifice, everything. And then you have Hugh Jackman's character, and he just seems to think that his wealth and everything can just buy him what he needs to be successful. And they just go head to head in this, and it just encapsulates so much about what we all kind of like, what I think we all kind of like struggle with. Some people are just born with with some gifts, and other people have to really power through and do incredible things in order to achieve greatness. And that's not even getting into like the whole twists and turns throughout the movie. You know, like Christopher Nolan's, you know, a brilliant director. He's probably, in my opinion, of course, like, because it's kind of a subjective thing, you know, film and how we view it is often subjective, but of our time, Christopher Nolan might very well be one of the greatest directors. And so, I mean, just overall, to me, that movie, it just, I don't know. And David Bowie's in it too. I mean, it's freaking David Bowie. But like, yeah, that one is definitely probably my favorite movie, you know, and I would watch it again anytime, actually.
Well, I definitely appreciate Leah prompting us to have that a little bit of, you know, getting to know some of the members of the enrollment team, I'm sorry, the experience team. But I do want to open it up one more time for any other prospective students, graduates, any individuals in the call with any questions, comments, concerns for your experience team. What is something that you guys want to know that hasn't been covered so far at this point, that you'd like to get a little bit more insight in? Anybody have any questions, comments, or concerns left? Or have we done an excellent job at covering just about everything that you guys could question?
Phoenix, this is Renee.
Hey, Renee.
I just wanted to comment for the new people that are considering coming. You'll go a long way before you will meet quality, understanding, and kindness. And that's, my testimonial. It's been a gift to join Autonomy. I am season 11, and it's just been a real joy, because I have felt so isolated, and now I have people that I can trust, and I can discuss things that are off the table in the world. So at any rate, I would encourage anyone listening to really consider. Like I say, you'll go a long way before you meet the quality of people that are members of Autonomy. And with that, I'm going to say goodnight because I have another appointment, but it's been a pleasure listening to everybody. So
Thank you very much for your input, Renee. It's always a pleasure when you come off mute. I love having you here.
Thank you so much. You take care, and we'll see you on Sunday, probably.
Rob.
Good night.
Good night, Renee.
Bye-bye.
So, ladies and gentlemen, if there is no other questions, comments, concerns, I would like to kind of break down. Well, let me give you guys 5 more seconds. Anybody? Bring it up now. Otherwise, you're going to have to hit us on the next one. So, guys, for your enrollment process, next couple of steps, joining an Autonomy Quest. That's what helps you make an informed decision and decide if Autonomy is right for you. You're welcome anytime. Come back if you guys want to join and hear more for the next one. Set up your guys' Blueprint strategy call, Blueprint for Success strategy call. This is where you're going to meet up with one of these fine individuals on our experience team, and they're going to break down exactly what it is that, in their opinion, is going to be the plan of action that Autonomy is going to help you with to overcome the problems and struggles that you guys are facing in your lives, professionally, personally, family-wise. It's so much more. There's so much more than just developing executive skills and sales and web hosting or stuff like that. There's so much more, and these individuals are going to help you guys figure out exactly how Autonomy is going to be successful for you in your lives. Once you've done your Blueprint call, you don't need another one. So if you guys have done one already, don't worry about setting up another one. You already know exactly how Autonomy is going to help you guys out. But after your Blueprint strategy call, next step, receiving an offer from the financing team or from the team, period, in order to actually join Autonomy. From there, you join the Autonomy, get connected with the community that we have here and the hundreds of people all around the world, and get ready for season 12. Lectures are going to be starting October 4th, 9 p.m. Eastern time. In the meantime, be prepped and ready for the great list of events coming up for you guys, if I can get it pulled up soon enough. But that will be September 20th. We will be having the next Autonomy Quest, which is not hosted by me. It will be hosted by another amazing individual that is a graduate of Autonomy, though. That will be from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, September 20th. And of course, this weekend, we have the AMA, the Ask Me Anything, September 15th, with the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Richard Grove himself. That is open up to the public. But after the next Autonomy Quest on the 20th, there is the welcome celebration with Mr. Jordan Page and Grant from Presence. Those two individuals are amazing. Jordan is awesome. Grant, I've done an interview with him. That's going to be a heck of a time. After that, we have September 22nd is the Sunday landing pad with all of the newer students as well. After that, we have coming up September 27th, we have another Autonomy Quest meetup. Feel free to join into that. There's no such thing as too much Autonomy Quest. But 8 p.m. Autonomy Season 12 Meet and Greet Part 1 kicks off on that day as well. Just after the Autonomy Quest, that's where you're going to be meeting all of the graduates. Any graduate is invited to appear, give their experiences throughout their time at Autonomy. October 4th, 9 p.m. Season 12 kicks off with Mr. Richard Grove. October 6th, we have the 12 p.m. Sunday Q&A. Starts at 12 p.m. Eastern, but we are moving lecture. Well, that's the sausage that you guys don't need to worry about. So that's the next upcoming events that we have available for you guys. So be aware this weekend. First up, September 15th, Ask Me Anything with Richard Grove, open to the public. September 20th, Autonomy Quest, and then the welcome celebration, Jordan Page and Grant from Presence. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have not booked your Blueprint Strategy Call for Success with one of the graduates, don't forget to check out the links in the comments section so you guys can get your free gifts. We all, of course, have the 19 skills for success. We have access to Mindset Lecture 1, Anti-Fragile, how to become anti-fragile so that you don't just break down at the first sign of complexity, because Lord knows the universe does not give a crap what you're dealing with when it drops complexity bombs in your lap. And it will do it ad nauseum, no matter what. God, do I know that one. So, so make sure that you guys are joining that lecture, become anti-fragile, figure out exactly how to overcome any complexity in your life. You have access to Autonomy Mindset 2, Leveling Up, that free lecture, as well as, and also Mindset Lecture number 3. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been my absolute pleasure. It is always a blessing to be in the presence of such amazing individuals. I mean, Rich is cool too, but I mean, we got Olivia, we got Tim, we got Justin, we got James Cordner, we got Carl Nieberding, like Leah Boone, Jerry freaking from like the Navy, and all of the rest. We got Doc Rock, we got Jane, we got Lucy, we got Lawrence, we got Sir, we got Aragorn, C, Sarah. I cannot wait because I want to interview you because my kid does sewing with like cosplay and stuff like that. It's going to be amazing. Guys, thank you so much for joining. Remember, question authority, refuse obedience. Sarah just unmuted. Go ahead and hit it, Sarah.
Oh, I was just going to say, I had to just talk to a client that stopped by for a few minutes, so I missed a few things, but I'll get notes later. But I do want to, you were just saying that you wanted to, your kid likes to do sewing and stuff. I do have a YouTube channel where I post up the basics of how to sew and knit and crochet and all that kind of stuff. So, because that's what I would often teach that in the community centers and stuff. So it's the only thing I have on YouTube. I think it's under Sarah Cross Art. It might be Sarah Cross Art on YouTube. But I have a link tree, so you can find it from there too. It's linktree/Sarah Cross Art. So you'll be able to find the YouTube. It's also on Odyssey, where you can actually download all of the instructions. You can download all the templates and stuff that I've used. So I give all of that away for free, and anybody is free to utilize that.
That's what I love. Thank you so much, Sarah. She's going to have a blast with that. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, this has been Autonomy Quest. Dare I steal his line? I dare. Thank you for tuning in and not dropping out. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll see you in the next season of Autonomy.